GitHub and get these libraries that will do that for you, and you call those. But they use the good thing underneath that like anyone could use, so you don't have to use the library if it sucks or whatever. It would be nice to get somewhere more like that instead of like they ship both things. Like we have something that's supposed to be sort of easy to use but also sort of performant, and it ends up being neither, right? Or they ship it and they know it's not performant, but there's some lie about how it's going to get performant and it never does, right? Kind of like the C++ optimizer. Like it's always like the optimizer, like it's going to get better and then all these problems are going to go away, and then like it never does, right? So you have these weird like vague promises about why this will eventually be good. It's like, well, no, like it probably won't. Are you doing any sort of checksums or parity codes on disk writes? Absolutely. So when you write out data, you pretty much always want to hash it, right? You really, really want to know if the data that you wrote out comes back the same. So absolutely, yeah. I store it redundantly and I hash it, so I know when one of the redundant versions is bunk. Yeah. Yeah, the eBPF stuff, I don't know. One bit brain, it just looked like I was like, I don't know if I care about this, because it just looked like possibly a bad idea, but I don't know. Maybe it's great. It is true that in that space, you often have ridiculous stuff like microcontrollers designed to do packet filtering. And
We're going to put Casey on
like,
for a little bit
like,
before we start.
And whatever. So like maybe it's good to just standardize that. I don't know. Like the Linux kernel is kind of going off the deep end these days. So I don't know. I feel like they've plowed too much complexity in there, and it's not a good thing. Like that's not going to be good down the line. 3dfx Glide it was just OpenGL really. 3dfx Glide is not. It is just pretty much just OpenGL. It's slightly different. But like if you could program OpenGL, you could just program Glide right now. Like you would barely know the difference. I think. It was OpenGL back in the day though. So we're not talking about like modern OpenGL. We're talking about OpenGL where you called like GL vertex for every vertex kind of thing. That's what Glide was like. Yeah. All right. I should mention.
We'll bring
So how are we doing here?
Casey off now. You can, of course, go watch his stream if you want. While you wait a few minutes for the emails to go out and tell the people that we are doing things and so forth. I used to have to make a GL call for each vertex. Yes, that is how it used to work. You've been trying to figure out easing functions. What do you mean? They're just make a cubic, make a sigmoid or something. It's easy. What you do is you just make a cubic polynomial and say what you want the position to be at 0 and 1 and what the derivative should be. And then there you go. That's almost every ease out function that you'll ever want. or easing function, because in, out, etc. You just have to remember how to solve your systems of simultaneous equations. Or not even that, no, because they're all the constraints that you want to do are simple. They're like, you know, x0 equals 0, and then you substitute that into the polynomial and you get a simpler polynomial. Any upcoming games I want to play? I'm not really aware of any. Which doesn't mean there aren't any, it just means I don't know what they are. I assume upcoming means has at least a vague release date. Vague release date. Vague release date. Does Patrick's Paradox have a vague release date? Am I done with the Roman time loop game? Probably. World of Contraptions. Yeah. So this was sent to me by somebody who potentially wanted to do this kind of, you know, design commentary. I don't know anything about it. I do think it's good to give people a heads up that I'm actually going to do it. So even though I have World of Contraptions here, I don't think we'll do this one right now. I think we'll do this one because I actually told that person that we would. Also, I told the public. And then we'll see. Galactic Chef. So how's it going, everybody? We'll give people another 8 minutes to show up. How is everybody doing? How are things? Is there anything on the topic of game design that anyone would want to know? Since we're going to be probably talking about design. I mean, we'll be talking about all aspects of game when we talk about this, but design will probably be a big one. Graham to sing. Graham to sing. Can I name the leaders in game design currently? I mean, I think Joe Biden is the leader in game design because he's the commander-in-chief. Or Brandon? There's some guy named Brandon. How much do I consider algorithmic complexity when writing games? Somewhat, but what you find when you actually work on games is that realistic factors matter tremendously, right? So something that is constant time or even linear time in terms of algorithmic complexity could either be very cheap or prohibitively expensive, right? So you need to actually look at what your computer's actually doing. And if something's O of n cubed, that's a good clue that it will probably do something bad, but it doesn't even really determine that. Because if n is small, you don't care. So, any serious game design questions before we really get into it? We'll give it another 4 minutes. 4 minutes. I got my decaf tea that I'm drinking at 8:30 p.m. Real good. Real good. Friday night, instead of going out to the club, we're talking about a video game. You always try thinking about games and tend to only find problems at every corner, making you believe that any idea you have. So you mean thinking about making games. You can always find reasons why something won't work, okay? The people who get things done take that list of reasons why things won't work and make it into a to-do list of problems to solve, okay? The people who don't get things done, the people who like complain about other people on Twitter for a living, don't do that. They just use that list of why things can't be done as the list of why you'll never do those things. So you just have to have that personality to turn that around. How much fun am I willing to sacrifice for immersion? I don't know what you mean. Immersion seems real easy. Like human beings drop into immersion very readily for every medium that we know. So I don't understand why you would sacrifice fun for immersion. Look up immersive fallacy. You're talking about something different. I think. How much do you need prototyping when designing games versus just designing on paper? In theory, designing video games on paper isn't really a thing. I mean, unless it's a puzzle game. Like for The Witness, you could design individual puzzles because, they were representable on paper. But designing an actual interactive video game on paper isn't a real thing. Sorry. I know people who teach game design classes who want to believe that that's a thing, but it isn't. People confuse verisimilitude with immersiveness. Yes, people definitely use words to mean different things. How would I approach designing a game in a genre I haven't worked in before? Well, I would make sure that I had what I believe to be a very strong idea. And you would have to have a reason why you believe that to be a very strong idea, like experience playing that kind of game, if you haven't made that kind of game. If you've never made that kind of game and you've never played that kind of game, you probably don't have a good idea in that genre. Well, let's get started. We have given time for the emails to go out and for people to show up. I'm sure because this is twitch.television that many people will continue to stream by in the middle. Anyway, some people were suggesting earlier this week or maybe last weekend doing this thing where, hey, I go and critique people's games. And on the one hand, this could be a useless thing to do, and on the other hand, it could be a very useful thing to do. I felt like the right way to do it was to solicit games from people so that they're voluntarily entering into this relationship. But what we're going to do is I'm just going to play the game, and I'm going to talk about what I notice and what I think about as I think it. If I don't like things, I will very plainly state that I don't like things, right? If I do like things, I'll say that too. And this is going to be an evolving off the cuff thing. And so what might happen is I might not like something in the beginning, but then as I play the game further, I might start liking it more, right? Because your picture of the game assembles, right? Or vice versa. I might like something in the beginning and then find out it's actually kind of shallow or repetitive, or well, there's all sorts of reasons why things can go bad. There are two basic things here that I think are very valuable, right? One of them is, like, as a designer, especially if you have less design experience, it's very valuable to see like what actually happens when somebody plays your game, not what you wish would happen when somebody plays your game, right? And it's actually hard to see that because, for example, if you put together a play test, or like your friend comes over and plays your game, I mean, in the time before coronavirus, maybe, that's very different than what would happen if somebody plays your game at home, right? They're in a different mental state. They're going to be nice to you because they're your friend, whatever. You know, you don't actually get to see what happens when somebody actually plays your game, right? So that's one end of it that I think is just valuable. Another end of it is, actually, there's at least three ends. So another end of it is, I think that all the people who I know who are strong designers have this voice of critique on their own work, right? Like they look at the thing that they're working on and they're constantly evaluating it, right? Like how much do I like this piece? How much do I like that piece? Is this piece not living up to what I thought it was? And because it's not living up to what I thought it was, is it doing damage to the game as a whole because it's weighing it down? Like there's all sorts of things that you might think about various aspects of what you're working on. And I think very early on when people start designing, not to imply, I don't know how much design experience the author of this game has, right? But just as an example, very early on when people start designing, they haven't really developed that faculty, that critical faculty. And this is not, the problem is it has to be discerned critique, right? It has to be high value, high quality judgment, meted out in appropriate quantities, right? Like on the internet, you'll find people who say negative stuff about everything all the time, right? But most of that is actually valueless critique. And so you need to develop this voice for your own work that's like, what is my work supposed to live up to? What is it supposed to do? What am I satisfied with? What am I not satisfied with, right? Now, for me, I have that voice on my own stuff, right? During the day, I'm working hard on a game or even on a compiler, right? Which is a complex technical system of its own that has an internal design that I have been very unhappy with aspects of, right? In the way that you might be unhappy with a game design. So what you'll see when I play somebody else's game is that voice that I've tuned for my own kinds of things that I like to, that is tuned for the kinds of things that I appreciate, turned on somebody else's thing. Now, there's automatically a mismatch there, right? Like the thing that the other person is making, like that designer is not me, right? So they're making a thing according to a value system that is different from my value system. And so all of my, whatever things that I say, whether they're positive or negative, automatically should not be taken 100% at face value, right? some of them need to be discounted. Maybe some of them need to be emphasized, right? Because it's like, look, okay, this concern that you have is important if you're making the kind of thing that you make, but the kind of thing that I make is this different shape and it lives over in this different territory of the game space and all that, right? That said, that kind of dynamic happens more when people are more experienced, right? When they're less experienced, you tend to see a lot more in the way of like things that could objectively just be improved, right? And so we'll definitely call those out if we see them. The third, I think that was the third thing. What was the second? That was sort of the second and third thing together, right? The second thing was seeing other people play your game and what happens when the rubber hits the road. And the third thing is seeing somebody else's critical voice so that you can use it as input with which to develop your own critical voice further, which may involve rejecting the aesthetic that I'm putting forward, in fact, right? If you have good reason to do so. Yeah, I don't know. We're just going to see how this goes. We're going to see how this goes. So I don't know anything about this game. I just know I saw the guy sent it to me. It is not yet out. The demo is out on Steam, and that's what we're going to play. So whatever we play, you can play anytime that you want if you have a Steam PC. Okay. Oh, one last thing that I'll say that's a little bit of a restatement of what I just said, but goes down into particulars is actually when you have a strong creative opinion about things, you will intentionally do things that are suboptimal on some axes, right? R.W. Hamming in his book, I forget what the book is called, but it's a collection of different essays from it's published by Stripe Press, right? It includes very famous lectures such as You and Your Research, which I encourage everybody to read. But one of the things that he says in one of the other essays is that any kind of system, right, whether it's, well, he's mostly talking about technical systems, but I'm talking here about design systems, and I see the same thing. Any kind of system does not meet its optimum it's a weird thing because he lays this out in different I don't want to fail to do justice to his view by oversimplifying it, but in one part of the book he says, look, if you try to optimize any particular parameter of a system, then the system as a whole will break, because systems are about how many things interoperate to generate a complex behavior. And so if you just optimize for one axis of that complex behavior, you're probably ignoring all these other things and it's likely to break, right? But another thing he says that's equally interesting is that in high dimensional spaces, most of the optima are near the edges, right? So he is a proponent of cranking things to the max or the minimum, but not optimizing those things individually, right? So it's a little bit of a nuanced view. But the point being, okay, so when I make a game, sometimes I design puzzles and I'm like, this puzzle is not going to be that fun, right? Or there's a subtle thing that you can do. There's a level of understanding you can click to on this puzzle that makes it tremendously more fun. But if you don't happen to see that, it'll be a mediocre puzzle. But I'm going to put it in anyway because I value more than that zeroth order idea of fun. I value having this complex and rich and subtle thing in the game for both for some players to discover and in order to just have that in there, to have that game be that much more of a nuanced, complex object, right? So there are choices where I deliberately go and look at a puzzle and say, I know how to make this puzzle more fun, or some simple axis that most people think you're supposed to optimize on, and I choose not to do that, right? Now, if I make a game, I've been thinking about it for years and working on it daily for years. And most people who play a game have much less time looking at it than that. And so it's unlikely that someone who plays a game is going to see the scenario around most of these invisible decisions, right? It's actually one of the things we're going to try to do a good job of in Braid Anniversary Edition, is explaining a lot of these invisible decisions that are in the game. But the point behind saying this is now, so this situation is happening in the other end, right? I'm about to play something that somebody probably put a lot of work into. I have relatively casual contact with it. I'm not going to understand many invisible things about it, many reasons why certain decisions were made. That's fine on the one hand, because neither is almost anybody who actually plays the game, right? Players have a casual relationship to a game usually. So on the one hand, that's a dose of reality. On the other hand, it's again a reason to just take into consideration that anything that I say doesn't see this whole aspect of design, because I didn't sit there for months or years trying to design this game, right? Okay. Let's go. I know nothing about this game whatsoever, except what engine it's in. All right. I'm just looking at the title screen for a second. Oh, I don't know if I said this, but one of the reasons I wanted to do this off the cuff and just say what I notice and what I see is that one of the most valuable things you can do as a designer is develop this faculty of, is it loud? It's loud. One of the most complicated, or one of the most beneficial things you can do as a designer is turn down music. But then secondarily, one of the things you can do is notice what your mind does. Oh, I lowered the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. Is this better? All right. One of the most important things you can do is notice what your own mind does when you see a game, when you see new things pop up on the screen and how you respond, right? It sounds obvious, but it isn't, right? Like, most people, including me, miss most of what goes on in their mind as reactions to things, because most of it is like very, very subtle. So here, when I booted up this screen, the first thing, obviously there was boring menu stuff. Obviously I noticed the title. I noticed a couple of these things go across, but the first couple of these that I saw were these empty-ish plates. Like, they looked like this one maybe. And so I thought, like, oh, these are like buttons or poker chips or something, right? Like, my brain's interpretation, even though I knew it was a food game, I didn't identify them as plates until a little, like 5 or 6 of them were out and I started seeing ones with stuff on them. But the empty ones being there first, I was like, okay, there's some abstract circles in the background, right? It became cooler when I could identify them as food. And so that's a small thing, but it is very, very valuable for you to be able to notice these things about your own game. And maybe you don't care about that fact, right? But being able to notice that fact before you have to play test it is super valuable, because it reduces the number of round trips that you have to do to like validate that your game is working. Yeah, a few people are saying they thought they were coins, and Again, that's not a big deal necessarily, right? It's not going to ruin the game. But it's like a moment of confusion that people will forget about later if the game is good, right? But just notice these things. That's all. All right, tutorial. Character customization. This guy looks great. Why does his... Oh, this is random. I thought this was like his facial hair and it's like a mustache shape. But I was like, he has a dye on his mustache. And then I was like, no, this must be a button to reroll. But like, why is it lined up with facial hair too? You know? Seriously, it looked like a curly mustache, like from the Old West evil guy. All right. Kitchen style, great. Chef name. What's a good chef name? Master Chief. All right. We're just going to play on normal because I don't know. Like, you never know what difficulty levels mean to people. Start with some planning. This is like... When people eat things, they don't really stick their tongue out like that, right? Because they're making room in their mouth for the food to go in. So this is like rejecting the food. I don't know. We'll see how this... Yeah, the talking animation was pretty distracting. I agree. It reminded me, what I was going to say, but I didn't, is it kind of reminded me of Total Carnage. You know that game? It does a Mick Jagger yell. Yeah, I was thinking Rolling Stones, right? Okay. Let's start with some planning. Recipe planner. Crispy dessert challenge. 3 sweet dishes with a prominent crispy element. Sweet flavor. Okay, the text is very blurry. I'm playing on a 4K monitor. You guys are probably seeing the stream downsampled to 1080p, so it probably doesn't look as bad to you as it does to me. The text looks like ass. I'm just going to be very honest about it. There's like this M here, which is getting aliased across. So like the right-hand side of the M is all fringed out. You don't want this. In general, a good rule for drawing text in the year 2021, actually for the past 6 years at least, is whatever resolution you render your game in, render the game in that resolution, and then in a post-process layer, render your text at 1:1 pixel resolution, even if it's pixel art text, because you don't know what resolution the display is at, right? And this just looks terrible. And it's hard to read as well. Like, this is kind of hard to read over here. Now, I understand that indie pixel art games like this pixel art aesthetic and whatnot, but these pixels are not even the same size as each other, so you're already kind of not doing that. Which is fine. There's different ways to do pixel, but even like this and this, right? So I think it's just the font is not high res. Yeah. But again, the problem, you know, you have this, whenever your pixel size is a non-integer multiple of your screen, while your font pixel size is non-integer multiple of your screen pixel size, you get this kind of thing where you're sampling in between the font pixels, and you don't really want that. Like, look at that and look like, yeah, you get what I'm saying. Okay. These look totally reasonable. I don't know if we lucked out on those or if they're just scaled up quads. I don't know. All right. Pick an ingredient. Okay, this is savory. Fresh, funky, rubbery. Where is sweet? Sweet. Oh, it's top middle. So this is sweet. Araber. This is sweet. It is raw. So this can be added in. This has to be cooked. Okay. Now this is melty and juicy, so it's not going to be very crispy. Although I don't exactly understand, because I'm not a chef, the difference between crispy and crunchy. All right. What I will say is this is a lot of frickin' numbers to deal with. Okay. There are different schools of thought about how do you teach somebody a game. And I would say this, it looks so far like it's doing the old style, which is you throw them into the whole game and then you just explain the stuff as it happens, right? But the problem with approaches like this is like there's way too much stuff here. I don't know what any of this means. I'm not going to care for a long time, right? I care about sweet and a couple other things. So a very modern approach for this kind of how do you get people into the game is to design the game to be more approachable in the beginning, and then the design evolves as you go further, right? So like maybe level 1 would have 4 items and 6 stats, right? Or something like that. And I wouldn't be like assaulted by all these things. All right, so because already it's kind of a memory game. So this and this and this are my sweet items. This one is crispy and sweet, so I think we're going to base the dish on this. I don't know how this gets watered down if I mix it with things, and I don't know what predominantly means. Does that mean more than 50%, or does it mean highest? Right? So I guess these are flavors and these are textures down here. I need to adjust the temperature in my room here. Okay. Look through the other ingredients till you find the sweetest one. Well, I don't know about sweetest, but yeah, it's not crispy. Okay, so they're at least, this is good because they're at least going through step by step and they're saying, you know, A but not B, therefore, oh, can we, wait, I could make it crispy. What is this? It's the slash dot, the slash daughter. Wait. So if I really overly slash dot it, it actually gets more sweet. But also liquid. It's crispy but liquid. Okay. Boom. So is this slash daughter, is that cooking? Okay. So raw is not down here, it's only up there. So that are these different 3 kinds of heat? Like Jack Donaghy? Drag a pan. Where are my pans? Particulator. Where are my pans? Drag a pan. Pan. That does not, okay. This reads to me like a dark circle, not very different from this circle that it's next to. Like these look like, I don't know what, like dishes or something. Even though you have an arrow pointing there, it's like under this box, right? Okay. Okay, so that planner doesn't make the recipe. I have to execute. Okay, I can't get rid of this. I just need to pick a different one. It's like Photoshop. Okay, how do I know? I guess it wants me to keep going. All right. So this is different because my heat was low and high, but the Tastalizer probe. Yeah, that looks like the barfing the bad food out tongue. It doesn't. Funky. It is not crispy yet. There we go. It's getting crispy. See, I don't like how these are moving around. Like, it's sorting them, but it's moving it like while it's under my tongs, right? Wait, this is gonna... I'm worried about my thing burning. But, like, this is a cooking. I'm worried about my thing burning. Like, should we stop? Wait, is it confused because I just moved it off? Someone says, I think a lot of people play these food games because they recognize and like human food. I think that is true. It is definitely a risk you take. However, you can make it fun, right? You can have it be like in a funny way referring to human food. Okay, I'm annoyed that now this is going to burn because the tutorial went backwards. Oh my God. So I feel like the tutorial is like cheating and like not burning stuff, which is kind of fine, but also I feel like the game's gonna jump on me later. Why is this one better? Why is it so much better? Is it the red plate? Or is it the plating? No? I don't know. So the different aliens probably like different things. That's probably the thing. She likes variety of flavors and mouthfeels. He doesn't like crispy. Like, I hope the game doesn't actually tell you the scores. Yeah, this guy's mouth is... Aim for around 2 amounts. All right. Okay, wait. 2 amounts of what? What? I see. Make 3 bite-sized dishes. So it's possible to 2 amounts. No hazards. Flavor variety. Okay, so I don't get to see what the AIs are doing. At least 1 strong flavor. No more than 3. Oh, God. This is just so much stuff. But I guess you don't have to get all of them. This is a lot to throw at somebody for the first level. I'm just going to say that. Strong. What is strong flavor? Oh, above 50. Funky. Dispies. But this gives me multiple strong flavors. So we're in danger territory there. Let's go goops. We're gonna make goops. Texture variety. Like, I'm going to be under time pressure, and I don't remember how to, like, refer to this at all. Right? No single texture above... No, okay, goops is not good, then. Goops is always liquid, no matter what I do to it. Oh, rubbery. Sticky. It's... Goops is 100... We can't do goops. All right, we wasted 20% of our time figuring that out. This also is bad texture. Okay. Darfin steak is acidic. This is our plan. Darfin steak with a little bit of Grant Wedge, which is also acidic. Wait, flavor variety. Darfin steak doesn't really get other flavors. We could make sloppy steaks. Oh, yeah, okay. So we need some Grant Wedge. Okay. Grant Wedge is going to give us our other flavors. Like... And then a tiny bit of Doronoro egg. Oh, dude, I didn't add to recipe. Rip. Okay, add to recipe. Add to recipe. I'm sure this is fine. Add to recipe. All right. Kitchen view. Darfin steak cooked on medium. Where is it? Oh, let's put it in a pan. Okay, this is raw for a while. Put that on low. Gonna put our grunt wedge. So we want our acidic. Okay, so this is fine. And then Doronoro egg with really nothing. So let's... Oh, we want it like two baggers. All right. 4. So that'll be 1 point something. That'll be... Okay, let's just start. Let's start here. So we're going to chop this. Okay. 1.05. Wait, are we including the weight of the plate? Oh, 3.08. So we want 5.08. Wait, what? This is communist. It says 3, and then it says 5. But this says 1. What kind of alien scale is this? I mean, I can't really play this game. All right, we're going to assume it's just the weight of the food. 1.05. $1.23. We might have to cut another one of these. And egg. Whoa, that egg is heavy, bro. Wait. Yeah, okay. Okay. Bonus. Can I like rotate my food bits? Wait. What is going on? Okay. We'll go for symmetry in the plates. All right. 1.5. That's going to be too heavy, right? 2.2. Oh my God. All right. Let's back that out. 0.55. 1.24. It's interesting that in this one you're making... I don't believe the weight of this egg. It's a little bit... seems wrong. What? Come on, bruh. What? The scale doesn't make any sense. This is like nuclear egg. All right, we're going with that. Wait, there's raw meat. Why was there raw meat? The egg didn't show hazards. Oh, I would have totally stomped these guys. Okay, look, I explicitly did not cook the egg because it didn't show hazards on the thing. Maybe I was confused and didn't look at the right place. All right, see. All right. So this is the main thing. All right, we're going to try again. We're going to play this again. Okay, the scale seems very broken. Oh, the ingredients shift every time. That's interesting. This is savory. All right. We have to cook the egg. We know this. Chewy and rubbery. Like, do aliens like chewy and rubbery? I don't even know. All right. Okay, let's go for the Doronor egg. See, it doesn't. Oh wait, it says hazard here. I don't know, guys. I don't know why I thought I didn't have to cook the egg. No more than 3 strong flavors. Okay. Wait, let's go back to... How come I can't click on this? Okay, this is still hazarded because I didn't frickin' cook it. Okay. No single texture. I don't want chewy though. It's too chewy. No, we don't like chewy steak. Maybe we do. I don't know, guys. Particulator? So this one doesn't have strong on any of the axes. Oh, it does now, though. What about a flube? That's very strong. What about a Walter? Borroluma. Oh, they're going to like the Borroluma. Can we make it not be rubbery, though? Yes. We don't want it to be tough either, though. Stringy? Oh, it goes through stringy real fast. Problem is, it's a little bit... It turns tough immediately. See, this particulator seems high difficulty. What about Lubel? Lubel. savory, sweet, and rich. That'll be my third strong flavor. We're just going to add... Oh, wow. Halfway. Okay. Here we go. Doronoro egg. Cooked on medium. Where's my tongue thing? Like, why isn't that I yank the actual tongue, by the way? Missed opportunity. Lubel cooked on low. And then Moran steak. I'm confused. Like, there's no way that that's not a hazard, right? I don't at all remember what this does. We're just going to cook this and see what happens. This is not going to be remotely as much of a slam dunk as last time. Whoops. Come on, tongue. Oh, yeah. Like, I forgot to cook it again for some reason. How's the egg? Egg is almost done. Lubel is rubbery. I don't think I like that. I don't want to irradiate myself. 3, come on, egg. Go, egg. No hazards. Stringy, that's what I wanted. Take that off. All right, we're going to hope this goes well. Because I literally don't know what's going to... Why can't I control my tongue? Come on, egg. So is this still the 2 pounds? Cook! Okay, no hazards detected. Take it off. Boom. Oh, that's uneven. 186, that's a no-go. Cook. Why does the last bit of raw take so long? Okay. Yank that off. Okay. So, 126. I don't think I have time, guys. $2:05. 1 minute. 2:08. That's not a plate. I took too long planning. Shoot. Grab the plate! Okay, that's inexcusable. I don't know. That's inexcusable. Too many competing textures. Okay, see if I had actually managed to put the dishes together, if I'd had like 20 more seconds and the game had let me pull the plates. All right, so we have failed at this game twice, but I feel like I have the hang of it. Okay. Here's what I would be thinking about if this were my game. And again, I have not been thinking about this game for a long time. But as I'm trying to take this into like the full game, my question is, I have a lot of questions. Like how would I try to make the gameplay have depth, right? So right now it appears to be that there's a lot of variables, right? So each food has different, different ways that you could cook it and different textures it'll go through and all that stuff. And I assume that that's constant, like that's not randomized per play, right? Because if it's constant, you could actually learn it and deal with it, right? And have more expertise at how to prepare these particular things. That said, as mentioned, these are not really human food. And so I think there's a little bit of a natural desire for people to nerd out over these particular food types, as opposed to if it was mostly human food. I don't know. Like that was stated by someone in chat at the beginning, and I think it's true. Right? Okay. So the thing is, just having a lot of variables, though, isn't really depth. It's a certain kind of depth because, well, it's breadth. Having a lot of variables like this is breadth because it's like, okay, I can learn how this steak cooks. I can learn how this steak cooks. I can learn how this fruit cooks. And each of these is a multidimensional thing. But then what you're doing every time is you're doing the same multidimensional balancing problem every time. So that's actually not necessarily deep, if you know what I'm saying, right? Because you're doing the same activity. And so a question is, how do you bring variety to the kind of activity? And there are lots of ways I could think of off the cuff. And of course, you never know how well these are going to work unless you actually sit down and do the game. So for example, maybe there are different kitchens. Like it's a game with aliens, right? So maybe the different alien worlds have like different kitchen styles, right? Like the dragon dude is from a world where they massively burn you just have this furnace that like cooks things really fast, but is really easy to overcook, right? Or I don't know, like that's one orthogonal dimension to what the food things are, right? Or even, idiosyncrasies, like you went to this guy's house and his gas stove cooks 20% faster than yours that you're used to, or whatever. Like that's a dimension of things to deal with that's different from the dimension of the foods and the whatevers, right? Getting to know the characters of the chefs would be another dimension. Maybe that's here, maybe that's not. I can't actually tell from the couple of plays so far if they do have different character or if you're just making 3 dishes, right? I made a game a little bit like this way back in 2010 or something. No, 2007. Where you would like paint pictures and then a panel of judges would judge the pictures, and each of the judges like had some algorithmic thing that they were looking for, right? And you would sort of figure out what they wanted and try to game that particular panel of judges, right? So this game could have an element like that. Maybe not, right? Who knows? again, it's about aliens. So maybe you're on the jungle forest world where mostly what you have to work with is like fruits, and you somehow have to, you have a lot of things that are like similar, but you have to somehow build a taste vector out of things pointing kind of in the same direction. Like, yeah, the plating component, like in this screenshot, there's very nice plating on all these things. I don't really know. It didn't seem like the game took that into account, but maybe it does. Which reminds me that, so as somebody who doesn't really cook, right? I still know that like timeliness is an element of cooking, and that doesn't seem to be in this game at all, right? So like if you make a dish and then make a second dish and the first one gets cold, that maybe doesn't seem to matter. Also, I know, even though I don't cook, I know things kind of self-cook in their own heat after you take them off the stove and all of that kind of thing, right? Because food is physics, and like how much of that is here yet, if any, I don't know. But it, like, that part of it didn't actually feel like cooking to me. It felt very much like turn the dial. Like I felt like I have too much control over the food. It was still hard because it's this big multi-dimensional problem, and I haven't seen all these parameters before, and I'm not used to it. And I don't know that, you know, even though it looks like the food is on the plate, the food magically isn't on the plate. Got to fix that. But it felt like I have too much control over the food, right? Like what, and I'm going to say, this is the kind of comment where you shouldn't try to fix it. You should just ship your game, probably, because games are hard and they're hard to finish. But if I were making this game, I wouldn't actually have you make 3 of the same dish every time. I understand fictionally that makes sense, but I would actually have the player do 1 dish and then have it go in a replicator and all 3 of the judges eat it or something. I guess maybe that takes out the dimension of making something slightly different for each judge, if that's in the game, but it gives you this dimension of trying to solve simultaneously for all 3 judges, right? And it makes the player do a lot less in the way of redundant action, which means you could put more nuance into each action, right? Like if the way I shake the steak in the pan over the stove determines how browned it is or in what way, right? Then I can sit there and shake it, and that's interesting, and I might mess it up, but it's still probably, then I have to make this decision, like, is this recoverable? Do I keep going? And probably the answer is yes, because the counter's timing down. And so can I make up for it with other things, right? That's the kind of thing that I would be thinking about. But I would have there be 3 judges. I would have them say more clues if they have personalities. I would have them say more clues in the reviews about the personality, because that makes it more learnable. They might have things that they want, but I couldn't tell yet. Maybe it's you're supposed to play 100 times before you start seeing that, but I can't tell that from right now. But yeah, like I want to like slide the steak around in the plate. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of stuff to cook it. Like I really want it to be about making the food and not selecting a dial along a certain number of dimension parameters. So having that many parameters is inherently stressful. You're just bombarded by all these numbers. I think that might scare a lot of people off. But that's also kind of what the game is about. So I don't know how you make that more appealing. Like maybe you just don't show them all at once, right? Maybe you just, like you could even, okay, so you have this whole field of different textures, for example, right? You could just not draw them except for when they're relevant. You could even like, so I don't think you want to like just draw them in a row or in a column, because then they'll resort based on what's going on, and that's confusing. But if you draw them exactly where they are, but you just don't draw them if they're 0, right away, I think that would help with people's ability to concentrate and focus. And it would actually add a little bit of an element of discovery, because you don't know what all the textures are until you figure out how to do them with a particular food, right? I would try to make a game like this progressive, right? Where you start out with a small number of foods and you can learn those foods. Like what's in the game right now is way too many foods for me to understand what happens with them. And then that was randomized for the next round. And so I didn't get to use most of the ones that I learned, right? If I could have remade the dish from level 1 again, then I would have gained like, oh, I want to fix what I messed up about that steak, right? Can't really do that. Maybe that's fine, but because there is something to be said for not letting the player have control over the world. But at the same time, the space I feel like is too big for the beginning of the game. Like there's no way I'm going to know all this stuff, and it's going to take me a lot of traction to get expertise with these, right? Whereas if you start out and there's only 4 ingredients and the first challenge is like, you guys use 3 out of these 4 ingredients and have it, and then it's maybe not so obvious which ones to use, because maybe all of them, whatever the challenge is, all of them are relevant, right? And you could have a couple of challenges like that. Like that's a good way to learn 4 ingredients, is you give me 4 ingredients and you give me 3 or 4 levels that are like, use these same ingredients to do different things, accomplish different objectives that may seem very different depending on how I combine the ingredients and in what proportions and how I cook them. And then I learned those really well. And then I both get more comfort with the system and I have a knowledge base in this core set of ingredients. And then when you add some more, that's exciting, but I also have a base to fall back on, right? I can make the same kind of steak that I knew about, but I'm going to add this thing instead of that thing and see where it goes. That's what I would be thinking about. I don't know. Probably the game is pretty far along, right? It's, I mean, by the time you put your demo on Steam, I don't know. I don't know what that means in terms of time to launch, but well, less than a year probably. Yeah. So that's my impressions of this game. It's a little bit, this was an interesting experiment because we did only play a demo. It's like essentially a tutorial plus 1 level demo. So this is maybe shorter than versions of these we would do in the future that might involve me playing arbitrarily far into a game. But there we go. That is what I think about this. I do think it's a promising game. Like I don't quite feel like it's a game that I personally would have fun playing. But it's on the way to such a game, right? It's on the way to such a game. And whether it would get there for me would just depend on, you know, what happens between now and ship time. Yeah, I will say I didn't get annoyed at the music, which for this kind of game with this kind of, you know, low instrument fidelity music, usually it gets annoying really fast. So it's actually kind of astonishing that I didn't feel like I had to play the music off or turn the music off, right? Although, again, if you play this game 100 times, yeah, you're probably getting rid of the music. Is there anything that we should say? Because this is a new experiment. We've never done one of these before. What else do you think I should say before we sign off on this? After this, I'm going to take a short break and then we'll do a programming stream, like a compiler. No, a game stream, game programming stream. Do I think the ingredient picking part was the more interesting part? I don't know. I mean, this is where being new at the game makes it a little bit uncertain because your experience of picking ingredients is going to change a lot as you get better at the game and know the ingredients, right? Like you probably can know a lot faster what are the sweet ingredients if you've played the game a bunch. So it's hard for me to see into what that becomes over time. You found it pretty interesting as is. Yeah. What I'm saying is I kind of don't super feel like the basic gameplay thing of plan out exactly what this is and then go try to cook it with instruments that give you exactly the fidelity to do what you need to do as long as you stop them at the right time and whatever. That just seems of limited interest to me. It doesn't use a lot of the dimensions of interactivity that many other games do, right? Like how do you do headshots in this game? And I guess the answer is there's some of those foods that have a very, like they're stringy just for a little bit and then they turn gooey or whatever. So I guess there's that, but that seems limited. Oh, you meant the analysis. Okay. Anything else that we should address before ending this? I like making it like an hour in this case because it's a demo. You know, longer games we might go for longer. Yeah, someone's saying real cooking has some neat feedback mechanisms. If your pan is the right temperature for pan searing, the oil in the pan gets a shiny texture. Sizzling has a very identifiable sound and volume. Yeah, I mean, that's my naive idea of what cooking is like as well, is that it has lots of stuff like that. And that said, I am aware that there's a whole genre of cooking games. I've played some of them a little bit, right? So I don't really know what the games do, broadly speaking. Like I played Overcooked with Casey a while back, some months ago, but you know, we played like 5 levels or something. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll do probably another one of these at some point. I don't know when. I might be traveling next week, so that might delay it. I'm going to sign off for 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll do some video game programming on optimizing the undo system of the Sokoban game. Thank you, everybody. See you later.